Hello, my name is Sandy Adomaitis, the social media director for the Page International Screenwriting Awards, and your host for the Writers Hangout, a podcast that celebrates the many stages of writing, from inspiration to the first draft, revising, getting a project made, and everything in between. We'll talk to the best and the brightest in the entertainment industry and create a space where you can hang out, learn from the pros, and have fun. Hey writers, it's Sandy, sharing a warm greeting from Studio City, California, truly the jewel of the San Fernando Valley. Although we're still enjoying the beauty of the waning gibbous moon, the heat during the day has been a bit intense, even for us LA folks, just a week before Christmas. I'm going to stop complaining about the heat because I have some great news for you screenwriters. The spec market is back, baby. I was trying to say that like Vince Vaughn from Jon Favreau's movie Swingers. Writers, have you seen Swingers? Please do watch it. Swingers came out in 1993. It was written by Jon Favreau and directed by Doug Liman. The plot: a struggling actor has difficulty moving on from a breakup, but he is fortunate to have his friends, starring his IRL in real life buddy Vince Vaughn. There is a scene in the movie where John, he's the struggling actor, and in the movie he finally scores digits of a woman in a club. He goes home. He and his buddies have just had this ridiculous conversation about how long John should wait before he calls the woman. So he goes home and he decides to call her up that very night. It's a brilliant scene and I laugh every time. It's worth watching the whole entire movie, even though the entire movie's really good. Okay, back to the spec market being back, baby. What is a spec script? A spec script, also referred to as a speculative screenplay, is a unsolicited screenplay. Typically, it is written by a screenwriter who aims to have the script optioned and ultimately purchased by a producer, production company, or studio. So writers, when you sit down to write your original idea that no one is paying you to write, that's a spec script. Now, in the 90s, spec scripts were king. In 1990 alone, 14 scripts sold for $1 million or more. Spec scripts like Milk Money, $1 million, Radio Flyer, $125 million, Basic Instinct, $3 million, The Long Kiss Goodnight, $4 million. Here is the, I'll say, odd plot to Milk Money, which again sold for $1 million. 3 young boys pull their money and pay V, played by Melanie Griffith, a kind-hearted prostitute, to strip for them. I don't even. Afterward, she drives them home to the suburbs, but then her car breaks down. It's just as well, though, because a mobster is after her, and V realizes the suburbs are the perfect place to hide. But things get a lot more complicated when V falls in love with Tom, played by Ed Harris, a single father who is unaware of her real profession. I don't know how the actresses of the 90s took it. I just don't know. Okay. Anyway, why am I telling you this? Remember when I reported on Amazon buying Julia Cox spec script Love of Your Life for around $2 million? Now that raised eyebrows in town, but predictable only because Julia had already written an Oscar-nominated film, Nyad. Now, this is where I think writers out there that your ears should perk up. A spec script was just sold by an unknown writer, and I'm going to read the Hollywood Reporter article. It's entitled AI Thriller Spec Script Snapped Up in 3 Million Sale. I won't read the entire article, but I will link it in the show notes. I highly recommend you give it a read. The article starts, an unknown writer, a fast-rising feeding frenzy, and a true multi-million-dollar deal. It's enough to make executives or aspiring screenplay authors dream of the heady spec script deals of the 90s. In a deal that shakes up a sleepy Hollywood before the holidays, Fifth Season and Brad Weston's Make Ready banner have picked up Alignment, a spec script by Natan Dotan, a man who until a week ago had no representation. To kind of break down that paragraph for you, Fifth Season produces and distributes feature films and TV series. I'm going to guess they got the name Fifth Season for anybody who's worked on a series, hopes your series will get to the fifth season because then it can be sold for the big money. Okay, now Make Ready, the other company that was mentioned, is headed up by veteran producer and former studio executive Brad Weston, and they finance and produce films, TVs, and doc content. So, I mean, looks like Make Ready's putting up the money. Fifth Season's going to produce it. I again tell you these facts because it's good to know who out there is buying what. You don't have to memorize this stuff. Anytime you see a production company, just Google them and there'll be tons of information there. Yes, let me explain Google to you because, yeah. Okay, back to the article. The deal could become one of the biggest spec deals of the year. Naiad writer Julia Cox sold Spec, Love of Your Life, with Ryan Gosling producing to Amazon in October for a low 7 figures. But this one involves a writer with few Hollywood connections. It also involves a topic that is generating intense interest and hand-wringing in Hollywood, namely artificial intelligence. The writer has had several careers prior to this splashy entry into Hollywood. He is said to hold a PhD in sociology from Columbia University and worked in biology, serving as a chief analytic officer at several ad media agencies, was a director of a non-governmental agency in Sierra Leone, and directed a PBS investigative news segment with ProPublica. Among his topics of expertise are mass media, computer simulations, and data science. According to insiders, Dotan had written his script, then called one of 2 people he knew in Hollywood. That led the writer connecting with 2 literary managers from Untitled Entertainment. The managers signed the writer off a Zoom meeting. Alignment is described as having the urgency of thrillers such as Margin Call and Contagion, and takes place in a 36-hour period. It tells of a board member at a booming AI company who wrestles with corporate politics and warped incentives as he tries to prevent his colleagues' willful ignorance from causing a global catastrophe. Is this Terminator? Oh, okay. The reputation of the script grew at lightning speed, and in a week, the writer had over 20 meetings with producers. Even A-listers wanted in. Damien Chazelle is said to have met with the writer to produce the piece, while Matt Damon was also interested in the script. Wednesday evening, however, there was a twist. Out of the blue, producer Weston and Fifth Season, the financing and production company previously known as Endeavor Content, came in with a very muscular offer. The writer and his new team had a 3-hour window in which to reply. They put a clock on it, kids. That's what they did. It's an unprecedented deal for an unknown in modern Hollywood, which has moved away from splashy spec deals that were common in the 90s when writers such as Shane Black, Joe Esterhaus, and M. Night Shyamalan made their careers with 7-figure deals. It was a time when screenwriting was seen as a level field entry point into the Hollywood dream factory. Writers, during this article, Boris Kitt refers to the 1990 spec market. The spec market years lasted roughly from 1990 to 2008, and this is how it would unfold week after week after week. On a Friday, a literary agent would call the studio and say, "Hey, We're going out with a spec. It's so hot, we expect a huge bidding war. Then, Classic Courier Messenger Service would deliver one hard copy of the script, 2 Brads, not 3, to, say, Disney, Warner Brothers, Universal, and Fox, and the major studios and minor studios. Assistants would make copies for the top executives who rarely read the script, and to development execs and readers. Monday morning, the studios would start passing or bidding. And in the 90s, they did a lot of high bidding. The article I just read from The Hollywood Reporter mentions 3 screenwriters, Shane Black, Joe Esterhaus, and M. Night Shyamalan. Let's look at the spec market through their spec sales, starting with Shane Black. In 1990, Hold On by Wilson Phillips was the #1 song, and Shane Black was 28 years old when he sold his spec script, The Last Boy Scout, always loved that title, an action thriller, to Warner Brothers for $1.75 million. At the time, it was the highest price ever paid for a screenplay. The Last Boy Scout, which premiered in 1991, starred Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans. And can you guess who else? Can you guess who else I'm going to say? Do you need some time? Taylor Negron. Writers, Google him. Taylornegron. I got to hang out with Taylor one night at a party. Shout out to Eve for having that party. Taylor was as funny and everything I wanted him to be. Back to Shane Black. Shane would become a poster boy for a new breed of writer, confident, appearing on magazine covers, and creating hype long before social media. I'm not sure if he was the first, but Shane was known for breaking the fourth wall in his screenwriting descriptions to entertain the script reader. For example, here is a scene from Lethal Weapon. This is a very famous scene description. Exterior, posh Beverly Hills home, twilight. The kind of house I'd buy if this movie is a huge hit. Chrome, glass, carved wood, plus an outdoor solarium, a glass structure, like a greenhouse, only there's a big swimming pool inside. This is a really great place to have sex. Writers, what do you think about breaking the fourth wall in scene descriptions? Do you do it? Can you face yourself in the morning when you do it? Let me know on Instagram. Before we move on, here's the plot to The Last Boy Scout that earned Shane over $1 million. Once a first-rate Secret Service agent, Joel Hallenbach, played by Bruce Willis, is now a gruff private investigator whose latest gig is protecting a pole dancer played by Halle Berry. When Halle's murdered, he teams up with her boyfriend, Jimmy Dix, played by Damon Wayans, an ex-quarterback with a gambling problem, and the two go after her killers. Before long, they stumble upon a plot to bribe federal legislators into legalizing sports gambling. 90s. Moving on to Joe Esterhaus. We're still in 1990 when Joe Esterhaus became the highest paid screenwriter of all time by selling his script, Basic Instinct, to Carolco for $3 million. Here's the plot of Basic Instinct. Catherine Tremell, played by Mother Sharon Stone, a captivating crime novelist, becomes a suspect when she is connected to the brutal murder of a rock star. Homicide detective Nick Curran, played by Michael Douglas, investigates Sharon Stone and is drawn into an intense relationship with her. Basic Instinct became a massive success. Its box office grossed over $400 million. Esterhaus is best known for the campy Showgirls. The concept for the movie, which reunited Esterhaus with the Basic Instinct director Paul Verhoeven, came to Esterhaus after Verhoeven expressed his love for MGM musicals. Esterhaus wrote his idea on a napkin and soon secured a $2 million upfront fee with an additional $1 million if the movie was produced. While I was working on a TV show, Elizabeth Berkley walked by the writer's office. Elizabeth was the star of Showgirls. She walked by the writer's office and all the writers started to giggle and they waved her in. As Elizabeth was walking around to the entrance, I was already cringing and imagining how awkward the situation was going to be. I worried where the respect line was going to land. I did not have to worry at all. Elizabeth took charge. As soon as she walked in, she was like, "What's this writer office for? I want to be in the show. I'm available. Write me a good part." Good for you, Elizabeth. You wrapped those guys around your finger. Okay, on to M. Night Shyamalan. In 1997, M. Night broke into the Hollywood scene by selling his spec script, The Sixth Sense, for $4 million. Now, here's the plot of The Sixth Sense. Young Cole, played by Haley Joel Osment, is haunted by a dark secret. He is visited by ghosts. He is too frightened to share his pain with anyone except child psychologist Dr. Malcolm Crowe, played by Bruce Willis. Dr. Crowe works to uncover the truth about Cole's supernatural abilities. Not only did The Sixth Sense earn over $670 million at the global box office, but it also secured 6 Academy Award nominations, including 2 for M. Night and 1 for Best Picture. While working at the Motion Picture Television Fund, I worked with Haley's dad, and the Osment family came to the Michael Douglas Golf Tournament in Ojai, California. Just a really cool, chill family. I really like them all. Writers' spec scripts have gone on to win Academy Awards, including Thelma and Louise, sold by Callie Curry to MGM for $500,000 in, again, that magical year of 1990. Good Will Hunting, sold by 2 unknown actors at the time, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, to Miramax, or should I say Miramax, for $675,000 in 1994, and American Beauty sold by Alan Ball to DreamWorks for $250,000. Okay, writers, you have all the information. Now dream big and write your spec. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
And that's a wrap for the Writers Hangout. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Your positive feedback will help us keep the show going so we can continue bringing you more future episodes. Remember, keep writing. The world needs your stories. The Writers Hangout is sponsored by the Page International Screenwriting Awards with executive producer Kristin Overn, producer Sandy Adomaitis, and myself, Terry Sampson. And our music is composed by Ethan Stoller.